Dad, the nanny keeps staring at you, little Emily whispered, her tiny hand clutching his sleeve. Her eyes were wide, a mixture of curiosity and concern. John, a widowed rancher, paused mid-step, feeling an odd chill run down his spine. It wasn't the first time he had noticed the nanny's lingering looks, but hearing it voiced by his daughter made him suddenly aware of the tension he had tried to ignore. Something about her gaze felt different, and now, for the first time, John couldn't brush it off. He bent down and smiled gently at Emily, ruffling her hair. "Really? Are you sure?" he asked, trying to mask the unease creeping into his chest. Emily nodded solemnly, her little brows furrowed. "She keeps looking at you like she wants to tell you something." John took a deep breath, realizing that sometimes, even the smallest voices notice the things adults overlook. Before we dive deeper into this story, if you enjoy heartwarming tales about kindness and hope, make sure to subscribe to Kindness Tales, hit the like button, and leave a comment sharing your own experiences with unexpected kindness. Your support helps spread stories that inspire and remind us why compassion matters. John had always been a man of action rather than words. After the passing of his wife, he had thrown himself into running the ranch and raising Emily alone. Life on the sprawling land was tough, and he had often believed that strength came from handling everything himself. But Emily's innocent observation made him pause, and he found himself studying the nanny more closely. Her name was Clara, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, who had been helping around the house for only a few weeks. She was always professional, always courteous, but that day, she seemed distracted. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, John found himself sitting on the porch, watching Clara work in the kitchen. Emily sat beside him, her small hand in his, waiting. "Dad, I think she wants to tell you something important," she whispered. He nodded, his heart beating a little faster. He had always believed in being cautious, in keeping his guard up. But something about Clara's demeanor, her quiet dedication, and now his daughter's intuition made him decide to listen. Later that night, after putting Emily to bed, John found Clara still tidying up the living room. He approached her cautiously, unsure how to begin. "Clara," he said softly, "is there something you want to tell me?" She looked up, startled, then lowered her eyes for a moment before meeting his gaze again. There was a vulnerability in her eyes he hadn't seen before, a quiet plea for understanding. I didn't know how to say this," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "But I've noticed how much you've been struggling since your wife passed. I've worked in homes where people try to act strong, but it's hard to do everything alone. I wanted to help, in any way I could." John listened intently, feeling the weight of her words settle over him. It wasn't about judgment or gossip, it was about genuine concern, about someone noticing his silent battles and wanting to support him without intruding. In that moment, John realized that kindness often comes quietly. It doesn't announce itself or demand attention. Sometimes, it's in the small gestures, a helping hand, a thoughtful word, or even a lingering gaze meant to offer comfort. Clara had been watching, not out of suspicion or curiosity, but because she cared. And Emily, with her pure and perceptive heart, had understood it instantly. Over the next few weeks, John began to open up. He allowed Clara to assist more actively with the ranch, to share ideas and responsibilities. Emily thrived, feeling the warmth of a home filled with compassion and understanding. The ranch, once a place of routine and work, became a sanctuary of quiet kindness, where small gestures of care were recognized and cherished. One morning, as they were feeding the horses, John paused to watch Clara gently tend to a wounded foal. He realized that her kindness wasn't just for humans, it radiated to every living thing around her. Emily skipped over to him, her laughter bright as the sun. "See, Dad? I told you she's special," she said, hugging his leg. John smiled, his eyes misting with gratitude. It was true. Clara's presence had brought a light into their lives they didn't know was missing, simply because she had cared enough to notice, and they had cared enough to receive it. John also understood something else: kindness has a ripple effect. His heart, once burdened with grief and loneliness, began to heal. The small acts of understanding and empathy from Clara reminded him that even in hardship, humanity could shine through. And it wasn't just about grand gestures, it was the subtle acknowledgement of struggle, the patient listening, the quiet willingness to support without expectation. Months passed, and the ranch thrived, not just because of hard work, but because of the spirit of kindness that now infused every corner of their lives. John often found himself pausing, reflecting on the moments that mattered most: Emily's innocent insight, Clara's quiet courage to reach out, and his own willingness to let others in. Life had taught him that strength wasn't about facing everything alone, it was about embracing the help, care, and love that others offered. One evening, as the sun set over the rolling fields, John gathered Emily in his arms and looked at Clara. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "For everything, for noticing, for caring, for being here." Clara smiled, a tear glistening in her eye. "It's my honor," she replied softly. "Kindness always finds a way." Emily hugged both of them tightly, feeling the warmth of a family united not just by circumstance, but by compassion. John realized that life's most profound lessons often come from the simplest sources: a child's observation, a stranger's empathy, a quiet gesture of care. And in that realization, he found hope, not just for himself, but for the future they would all share together. As night fell, the ranch was calm, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. John sat on the porch, Emily asleep beside him, and Clara tending to the animals in the distance. He felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that kindness, so small, so quiet, yet so powerful, had transformed their lives. He whispered a silent promise to himself and to Emily, to always notice, to always care, and to never underestimate the power of a simple, heartfelt act. And so, life continued on the ranch, a little brighter, a little warmer, a little kinder, because someone had noticed, someone had acted, and someone had opened their heart. And that, John knew, was the greatest gift of all.